Hello and welcome to the Sky Blue Times YouTube channel. Today I wanted to run through my kind of thoughts on the match against Wolves, who's going to start that, look back at previous couple of 11s from the away matches against Wolves, and just kind of touch on a few kind of like general points as we head into that first game. When it comes to some of the kind of biggest rumours that we're seeing talked about at the moment with the likes of Savinho, that seems very likely wants to go to Spurs, and City are lining up Rodrigo as that kind of first choice replacement. At least that's what I've seen from the reports I've been reading. You look at the reports of linking Donnarumma to the club that as that kind of replacement for Ederson, that brings a lot of question marks, certainly for me, as having the right fit as a goalkeeper for what Pep Guardiola I'd expect to have wanted, at least across his entire career, and the keepers that he has had. So yeah, plenty of talking points there, but not something I'm going to touch on in this video. I kind of want to wait until there's a little bit more kind of concrete information around what's going on there, and then I can kind of dive into the players and share my thoughts and look at the things that maybe I'm concerned about. And then when I start to do the research and do the videos, I find that those concerns aren't as bad, and obviously on the flip side of that, I might find things that really do stand out as bad points. So yeah, I'll touch on that in a future video, but today was just to look at ahead of the Spurs game, the Wolves game on the weekend, open Premier League fixture, one that City in the last two games there away has lost and won, has faced their struggles dealing with transitions in those last couple of seasons, has had quite different lineups as we'll touch on a bit later, and then at the end of the video, what we could be seeing in that match is quite drastically different to the teams that we've had there, and kind of speaks to the problems that we used to have dealing with these kind of games. So if we just move over, this is the game that they won last season 2-1 away to Wolves early in the season. Kovacic was playing as that number 6. You've got Gundogan and Bernardo in midfield, Erling Haaland up front, Djebril Doku left wing, Savinho on the right, Rico Lewis as the right back. John Stones was fit at that time, playing as the centre back, played all the way to the end, and then was the guy who scored the winning goal from a corner, crossed in by Phil Foden in injury time. Ruben Diaz there, Josko Gvardiol at left back, Ederson in goal. I think for all City fans, when you're looking at this lineup and remembering the problems that we did have last season, I think it's no surprise that we're a lot more solid because we have a back line that is fit in that you have Stones fit, you have Diaz fit, Gvardiol fit as the left back. But then you see the problems that we would have had throughout the season dealing with that kind of midfield that is ageing. The likes of Kovacic are learning that kind of role as a number 6, filling in. Doku and Savinho brand new to playing together out wide as a winger pairing. Doku already had a season, Savinho in his first season. So you can already see why you'd be a little bit sceptical about how good the wide players would have been in this game, how well the midfield would have controlled those situations, despite having a defence that we would have loved to have seen for most of those games last season, apart from all the injuries that did prop up. And then when you're looking at this Wolves team, it's got a very good midfield that's going to really make it tough for you to progress the ball, to cover the spaces in between, and really force you to only be 1v1 out wide. And then when you're looking at that, you've got Semedo against Jeremy Doku, physical player himself, being able to deal with the strength of Doku. Gvardiol, not somebody that's going to be overlapping, underlapping, and really supporting him in those kind of situations 1v1 to make it a 2v1. And then you've got Aït-Nouri on the other side dealing with Savinho, somebody that has got great footwork, has done very well against other players 1v1, notably Mo Salah for many occasions. He's performed very well there. And then you have the threat in transition, the likes of Larsson. I think he's an underrated striker that will eventually, I think, get a move as long as he strings it together. Cunha, that's made to move to Manchester United this last season, was the one that he had that kind of stand-up campaign. Andre, I think, is a player that a lot of people will talk a lot more about after next season. I think he's going to have a good one. He's the kind of player that all teams need in the middle of the park. That's just so technical as that kind of like defensive midfielder. So yeah, I think they've got a really hard working midfield, and that game, it wasn't easy for City to progress the ball and create loads of chances in that match against this team, but they did eventually find that way and take the chances that got them the winner. Wolves did still pose plenty of good threat in transition as well, probably not as much as as we'll get onto in the game the season before that. But they definitely did give us some problems in that match. Now, if we roll to the season before, Julian Alvarez is here, who's obviously departed for Atletico Madrid, playing in that midfield. Kovacic again as a number 6. This was when Matheus Nunes just joined, so he was playing in midfield, and I'd yet to got to that point where it was obvious that Guardiola just didn't trust him in those central spaces. Phil Foden out on the right wing, Jeremy Doku on the left, Nathan Ake is the left back, Diaz Akanji is a centre back pairing, Kyle Walker is the right back. Now, again, when you're looking at the fullback situation, you're not looking at 2 players there that are going to give a lot of support to the players out wide, especially Phil Foden wants to move inside. Walker definitely had a bit of an up and down season, that 23-24 one, certainly in the early part, which is when this match was. Kovacic, as we mentioned with last season, struggling to learn that role as a number 6. Struggled even more so when he was first coming into the team and thrown into that position. Obviously, Matheus Nunes has his issues playing in midfield for the way that City want to play. Julian Alvarez playing more as that 10 as well, not the cleanest kind of fit as somebody that's dropping deep so much, alongside then Erling Haaland up front. So as you can already see with that 11, it's not something that looks very fluid compared to what we've seen in some of the matches of the team more recently. There's not a lot of combination of players there where you feel like that pairing is going to work very well together, whether it is some of the midfielders, whether it is a centre-back partnership that we've seen across last season was not perhaps the best, whether it is the winger pairing, whether it is the winger and a fullback. You're not looking at that team and thinking about all the really good relationships that there are on the pitch. And then Wolves, on the other hand, we saw with last season, posed some threat to City in transition, posed even more in that game with the likes of Neto that's now moved to Chelsea. Really did give them a few problems getting down City's left-hand side. Cunha there, Hwang there as well. Still had Gomez and Lamina, hard-working midfielders. So they don't have Andre in there, but they still have, I think, a good kind of physical level in that midfield. Gomez in particular from that match, from what I can remember, worked really well to move across, shut across, and help Semedo deal with Jeremy Doku on their own right hand side and make sure that he wasn't getting isolated 1v1. So yeah, I think they posed a difficult problem for City in that game, had a lot of threats in transition, and from everything that I've seen from Wolves fans talking about their current pre-season, a lot of their talk is about struggling to be able to create chances, to get forward, to score goals. A team that's probably going to be nice and compact, that's not going to be easy to break down, but is still going to have less and less kind of threat in transition that we are used to from these previous seasons. And those 2 games, particularly the one that they lost in the 23-24 season, Wolves were as much well coached by Gary O'Neill defensively as they were threatening transition with the players Neto, Cunha and Hwang. Whereas you look to Wolves this season, I mentioned that Larson to me is a player that I think can stand out as a striker and have a good campaign and get himself a move further up the table. But he's not somebody that's put it together just yet. They haven't brought in lots of new attacking players. They've not had a real kind of productive window. The player they brought, I think his name John from Fluminense, is that kind of player that can be really dangerous in transition. So that would be the kind of player that you're wanting to keep an eye on. But it's again, they've not got Aït-Nouri as the left back that's able to get forward, and we'll touch on the impact he'll have for City hopefully this season and in this match. And he was a big loss for them, somebody that is as much creative as he is somebody that with his physicality and athleticism can arrive in the box and get into good positions. So they're losing a lot of threat going forward. I think a lot will hinge on how well this John does. He did stand out in the Club World Cup. I expect him to be a kind of obvious problem that City need to be able to manage and deal with it in transition, and that kind of speaks to what I'd expect with the lineup when it comes to a match against Wolves, the players that they're going to be considering having involved. So this brings me to my kind of start 11 that I think we'll see at the weekend. Now, Trafford for me, I think, is an obvious one because of the goalkeeper situation going on at the moment. Seems to me that Ederson is likely to be leaving. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get a new keeper in Donnarumma, the one that is reported anyway, to come in and be that number 1 by that time. And I think James Trafford has shown that he's more than capable of playing games immediately. Whether he's able to be that number one across the whole of the season, that's another thing. But to be able to play that game, I think he's definitely capable of stepping in. I think he had that kind of one mistake in the Palmeiras match where he's taking an extra touch and taking too much time. But I think for the most part, he'll settle his way in. And this would definitely be a good first step for him, even if they're going to bring in Donnarumma for him to be able to get that first game under his belt. So yeah, that's who I would pick. I would keep the pairing of Kusanov and Stones. If Stones is fit and Guardiola's confident that he has that fitness, then I struggle to see Stones being left out of the team. It's more so, especially with the Club World Cup, that Guardiola's got to that point over the last couple of seasons where he couldn't rely on his fitness at all. And you think about how integral Stones was in the treble season, how useful he was as a player. But then how do you kind of hinge your system and give him an important role in the team if you're not confident as a manager in his fitness? So if Stones has showed that fitness across training week in, week out, 4 months, as it seems like he has, and especially in the Palmeiras match, looked like he was in good shape. I think whenever I see Stones return from injury, I'm always like surprised for the first 10-20 minutes of just how good he is. It's like a reminder of like, oh, okay, this guy really is this level, pointing to where players need to be positionally, communicating with the back line, in really good physical shape. Obviously on the ball is top as well. So yeah, I would keep that pairing that did start that match. I think with Kusanov, and I spoke earlier about Wolves are always going to have that kind of transition threat. That's going to be the main problem, that you're going to want to pin them up high in the pitch, break down that low block and create chances and win the game. But you're always going to leave that space in behind, and I think that's why Kusanov is a must for me to start the game. And then you put him alongside John Stones, and I think that'll be more than fine. There's more than enough experience there. No need for Diaz or Akanji to play. Knowing that Gosco Vardio didn't go away with the friendly match, I'm just assuming him with Rodri, with Phil Foden at the moment, wouldn't be starting this match. So that's why they're not in contention to start this match on my 11 that I've got up on the screen for you. So yeah, that's what I do with those pairings. I think Aït-Nouri is that first choice left back. There's certainly going to be teething problems. I did tweet about how, certainly in the Palmeiras match, you noticed that he is somebody that struggling to learn that positional play, so that he's often finding the ball in that match in particular when he's under pressure, and then because he's just so good under pressure himself with his technical ability, he's able to kind of wriggle his way out of those situations and find space and make a pass. But once he gets more and more accustomed to the team and knows the positions and spaces he needs to be in, he'll find he's receiving the ball in space with his head up, able to drive forward, and that's when you'll see more and more from Aït-Nouri as a City left back. But I think he's been more than fine in the Club World Cup to show that he can come in and start right away, so I'd expect him to be there. I think Matheus Nunes is likely the first choice right back, and I think when you're looking at some of the previous teams I've just mentioned against Wolves in the away matches, breaking down teams, breaking down these low blocks, we've had teams that just don't have the relationships between the fullbacks and the winger. So the likes of Aït-Nouri and Matheus Nunes, I think, are going to be very useful for breaking down those opposition blocks. So I would start Matheus Nunes. I think Nico is the most likely person to be able to start as that number 6. I think he showed good progress in the game against Palmeiras. Definitely some struggles with learning the kind of like right places you need to be, similar to Aït-Nouri, but much better than I've seen in previous matches. And on the ball, I think he's fantastic. Found Rico Lewis a number of times very well to be able to drive into the half space and into the opposition final third. And then obviously has that kind of physicality, can win those aerial duels, smells the danger. There's lots of moments where he's jumped high up the pitch and made the pressure, win the ball, and then played the ball back into the City forwards, like Rodri would always do. And people would always speak about Rodri not having that kind of athleticism to recover like Fernandinho, but the way Rodri wins the ball back is because he is so clever and he can read the situation and he arrives in that space to be able to win the ball cleanly. And you saw moments of that from Nico in that match. So I would start him. I think Tijani Randes is a lock, especially after his performances in the matches he's played for Manchester City. Somebody that can get up and down, has the physicality, the energy to just always be moving up and down and across the pitch, has the passing ability to thread the needle in the final third, find those passes into the box, whether it's to Oscar Bob, Erling Haaland, Shirky, Marmoush, Doku, etc. Which brings me on to Shirky. I think he's shown in the recent friendly match that he's somebody that needs to start, especially these matches where you need to break down the opposition and really early on you want to score. You don't want to run the game into something that becomes a 0-0. The opposition get an early goal and it just becomes tougher and tougher to break them down. I think you need to start on the front foot right away, and Shirky definitely gives you the opportunity to do that and find those passes and find Erling Haaland. So yeah, I would start those guys. I think Bob has shown in the most recent match that he's much sharper than he was in the Club World Cup, and with this situation with Savinho, I think, and obviously Foden with his injury, Bob would be the one that I would start this match, and then you have a really good idea of where he's at with his fitness. On the other side, I've left Marmoush and Doku both up there because I'm not particularly either way wanting one or the other player. I think both could do very well in this match, provided that they've got Aït-Nouri behind them. I think both of them could cause a lot of problems. It wouldn't surprise me to see either of them, whether it is Marmoush looking to move into the half space and make these runs in behind, whether it's Jeremy Doku trying to be 1v1 and then supported by Aït-Nouri with those kind of lapping runs. It just wouldn't surprise me for either of them, so I've included those two there. And then obviously Erling Haaland, you'd expect to start the match. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'd expect for that match. As I said at the start of the video, these are some of the games we really did struggle last season to create enough chances, break down these tough opposition low blocks, and then manage those situations in transition very well. You add Aït-Nouri, you add Matheus Nunes, two fullbacks with very good pace to be able to get back and recover. Stones being that leader, and then Kusanov as that defender that's excellent with his pace, but excellent in making recovery challenges. I think that gives you a good back line to be able to deal with those situations. But then also the likes of Nunes, the likes of Aït-Nouri are able to get forward as fullbacks and support and hopefully break down the opposition block a lot better. Within that, you then add in Shirky, you're adding Reinders that are much better passers into that midfield space, which again will help to be able to break down the opposition and find our players in good positions. And then yeah, whether it's Doku or Marmoush on the left hand side, whether it's Oscar Bob on the right hand side, I think you've got more than enough quality there, and more than enough players that can score goals in that team. But yeah, that's pretty much the video. Let me know if you like this kind of thing. I'm thinking of doing this for all the kind of future games that we have, just giving my talk through what I'd expect for the starting 11, where I would go with selection, and just have a kind of general talk through it. If you disagree, there's other players you would start, you don't agree with some things that I've said, and want to ask me some questions about some of the players, then please let me know down below in the comments, and I'll jump in and reply to you. Make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to help support the channel and you don't miss out on the next video. Otherwise, we'll be back with plenty more content this week.